Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Everyone set? All right, good evening. Thank you all for being here. We're here at the city's Emergency Operations Center, where we have been working on recovery efforts following the significant storm and extreme flooding event on January 22nd. We've been monitoring a series of storms off of our coast, and of course, the one that we've just experienced on Thursday, and now the one that's expected to make landfall later tonight. Our Office of Emergency Services has remained in regular communication with the National Weather Service about these storms and what we can expect from them. As of today, the latest forecast from the National Weather Service shows that this storm has the potential to drop a significant and unusual amount of rainfall on San Diego. Forecasts our team received earlier today show that the city of San Diego could receive between 2 and 2.5 inches of rain between tonight and Tuesday. Some areas of our city can receive over half an inch of rain per hour. As I've said, this is certainly an abnormal amount of rain for our city, and it is particularly concerning given the two most recent rain events that we've experienced over the past 2 weeks. This means a third rain event in just a 2-week period. As many of you know, Governor Gavin Newsom has already issued an emergency proclamation for 8 counties in California, including San Diego County, as a result of this pending storm. The governor and I have been in close communication throughout these recent storm events, and he and I spoke earlier today ahead of his proclamation. I'm grateful for the additional resources that the governor has marshaled to help us to prepare and respond for the upcoming storm, and as always, his attention and concern for San Diego is deeply appreciated. His proclamation will make it easier to handle whatever Mother Nature throws our way in the coming days. That said, given the abnormality of the latest storm events, the ground already being saturated from them, and the expectation that this much precipitation is headed to our city, I'm announcing that we will be reissuing an evacuation order for low-lying areas, flood-prone areas throughout the city of San Diego. This includes the communities of Southcrest, Mountain View, Encanto, Rolando, and other areas of southeastern and South San Diego that were impacted by the previous storms and the flooding that occurred on January 22nd. Residents in these communities should expect to receive a text message advising them of this evacuation warning starting around 7 p.m. tonight. Again, I want to be clear that this is a warning, not an order. This warning is designed to have residents in these communities make preparations now should it become necessary in the future. If and when an evacuation order is issued, the San Diego Police Department and other local first responders will go door to door to advise residents and help get them to safety. That said, if you are able, we encourage people living in these low-lying, flood-prone areas to seek alternative accommodations to ride out this storm. The city has established a temporary shelter at the Balboa Park Municipal Gym for residents for these low-lying, flood-prone areas, and we've arranged for free transportation to this site through the United Taxi Workers. I want to take a moment to thank the United Taxi Workers for their partnership to help San Diegans in need during this difficult time. Residents in these communities can call 619-280-4444 or use the Ride United app on their mobile phone to access this service. In addition, as a result of the impending storm, we'll be temporarily closing the local assistance center at the Mountain View Recreation Center tomorrow, and we anticipate potentially keeping it closed on Tuesday as well. We will certainly keep the public apprised of any developments on that front. Now, I understand the wariness that must come from these repeated warnings. I recognize that fatigue may be settling in, but I can assure you that this decision to issue this warning is not taken lightly. It is becoming clear that these kinds of rain events might become our new normal and what we must adapt to, meaning that we will face this situation multiple times. However, your safety remains my top priority, and that's why we're here today and issuing this warning at this time. I ask that everyone remain prepared and vigilant through this storm series, and I implore you to take these warnings seriously. At the end of the day, it is a precaution that is not taken lightly, but is done to protect you, your loved ones, and our community as a whole. So, I want to thank San Diegans for their preparation and cooperation during this time. We will have public safety and swiftwater rescue personnel stationed in these communities to ensure a swift response. I encourage all San Diegans to continue to monitor the city's website, sandiego.gov/storm, for all the latest updates and information. Again, thank you, San Diego. Together, we will get through this. With that, I'd like to turn the podium over to our Fire Rescue Chief, Colin Stoll. Chief Stoll.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for being here tonight. I want to start off by reassuring San Diegans that our public safety members are prepared. We have upstaffed in anticipation of this rain event for the next couple of days. We will have extra firefighters, extra lifeguards, and extra dispatchers staffing all of those days. We've got 8 swiftwater rescue teams led by our lifeguard division strategically deployed throughout the city. We've got extra fire rescue crews on engines, on technical rescue apparatus as well that are prepared. And of course, we've upstaffed in our dispatch center to handle the call volume of the number of calls come in from the 911 system. I want to talk last Thursday, ahead of that storm, we asked the public to avoid any kind of outside activities that were not necessary. And I want to ask that again. We saw very few rescues. We saw very few calls for service, and that was because you heeded to those requests. If you do not need to go outside, if you do not need to get on the roads, don't. It certainly makes our job easier, and it keeps everybody healthy. If you do have to go out and drive, I ask you to not drive around the barricades, heed to the signage there. Do not travel through moving or standing water. You cannot tell how deep that water is, and that's really where a lot of our rescues come, is people trying to drive through that water, not knowing really how deep and how dangerous that is. So again, we have upstaffed, we are ready for this storm, and certainly we hope that in partnership with you in limiting your outside activities, that we can see what we saw last Thursday and have very little impact to that. And with that, I'll turn it over to Deputy Chief Operating Officer Chris McFadden.
Thank you, Chief Stoll. Following the unprecedented event that we had on January 22nd, city departments have been working to assess damage to the infrastructure and make sure we're ready for the next storm. In response to the significant damage of over-chopping the storm drain channels, we notified the Army Corps of Engineers and all state regulatory agencies of our need to get in to do emergency channel clearing. Since January 24th, with the support of our emergency contractors, the city has indeed removed vegetation and obstructions from approximately 4 miles of storm drain channels. This is more than twice the amount of work we are able to do in a typical year. We accomplished it in just 1 week. The magnitude of our channel clearing has been possible through the emergency declarations made at the local and state levels. In addition to clearing channels, the city has quickly mobilized all of our contractors to perform emergency repairs at 8 different channel segments throughout the city. Since the storm on the 22nd, our drain inspector and cleaning crews have been fully mobilized to clear the storm drains in the most impacted neighborhoods. Work has continued throughout the weekend, and we continue to work through the large volume of public reports of flooding and storm drain blockages. All of this work has been performed by literally hundreds of city staff and contractors. Many of these staff have been working 16-hour shifts for the better part of the last 10 days to ensure that we are safe. While most have focused on the most intensive efforts within the Choyas Creek areas that really did demonstrate the need for preparedness that we're alerting tonight, we have also performed some critical work in areas outside of those neighborhoods, in particular in Nestor, Otay Mesa, and in Sorrento Valley. The back-to-back storms we have experienced further will be further complicated some ongoing work due to the muddy channel conditions, but we are ready for the storm, and we are actively inspecting and assessing the storm's conditions and will continue to do so throughout the week. And with that, I will turn it over to Bethany Bizak.
Thank you, Chris. Since the storm last Thursday, the Transportation and Stormwater Departments have been inspecting roadways and culverts, and we have been performing cleanup activities on city streets, including assessments of unstable or leaning trees. All emergency calls received by the public from the storm on Thursday to our Public Works dispatch have been assessed inspected, and if needed, actions have been taken to address flooded locations, road hazards, and impacts to trees in the right-of-way. San Diego is already experiencing high winds, and the forecast indicates that portions of the city will have periods of high wind gusts up to 30 miles per hour into early this week. We ask the public to stay on alert and call the city's Public Works Dispatch at 619-527-7500 for any emergencies related to downed trees, streetlight or traffic signal knockovers, and clogged drains and flooding. Our Public Works Dispatch team is fully staffed and ready to immediately dispatch our operations teams into the field, and this is the way to ensure the best and fastest response by our city teams. Public should call 911 for emergencies related to public health and safety. This evening and through this week, Transportation and Stormwater Department crews will remain in storm patrol mode. Storm patrol involves hundreds of city employees canvassing neighborhoods to respond to any storm-related issues, such as blocked drains or fallen trees that may arise. With that, I'll turn it over to Chris Heisler.
Since Monday morning, 14 days ago, City's Emergency Operations Center has been activated to the highest level. Approximately 16 to 70 personnel from throughout the city have been coordinating resources and ensuring that we're providing the highest level of support to the community and to our infrastructure. Let's talk a little bit about a warning and how important it is. It's critical that individuals take responsibility and start looking at where they're at when the storm arrives. We've positioned a huge amount of resources to assist, but the best way is prevention. That's the intent of the warning, is to allow everyone to position themselves to prevent being part of the problem. As the fire chief mentioned, a huge public support happened last Thursday. That reduction in traffic, that reduction in activity really allowed us to manage what little did happen. Tomorrow might be different. And by reducing the number of individuals that are out, it ensures their safety and allows us to respond effectively to the emergencies. We are monitoring the weather constantly to determine the impact and make sure we're positioned to adjust our resources to address those issues that occur. If you need additional information, sandiego.gov/storm is the website we'd like you to go to. If you have specific questions, 211 is still available. Thank you. I'll be followed by the mayor.
Thank you, Chief Heiser. Note that we also have our San Diego Police Chief, David Nislight, here. All of us are available for questions. I'm happy to field any at this time if any members of the press have any questions. If there are none, I would actually, yes, please.
So in preparation for tomorrow's storm, what are some of the ways that you guys are preparing kind of to address the northern areas? We're talking about Rancho Bernardo, San Pasqual area, also La Jolla, Torrey Pines, any of those locations.
Sure. Let me repeat, just in case that wasn't picked up by the live feed. The question is, what is the city doing to prepare our northern area communities, these low-lying flood-prone areas that were most impacted on January 22nd, or in our southeastern and southern communities? Question is, what are we doing in the northern part of the city? I'll ask some of our city teams to respond to that.
Absolutely. And while, of course, we're very focused on the South Crest community, anytime there's a storm, we deploy all of our resources throughout the entire city. So what that means, we go into storm patrol, and we have every segment of the city that's actually identified, and we have a person responsible for every area. They're also familiar with all the critical storm drains in those areas to do a double check before and, of course, after any storm. So the entire city is canvassed, and we make sure that those are addressed proactively before any storm, in particular a storm of this size.
When it comes to having mutual aid with other cities in the county, and you may have touched on this earlier, so I apologize. How's the mutual aid going? Because it works great with fires. And how does it work? Because you have also PD and sheriff that you have to work with when it comes to floods and rain.
Yeah, I'll ask my team here to respond to that. They do this much more intimately on a daily basis. What I can say is from every level of government, the calls that I have received, the communications I've received from federal and state leaders, county leaders as well, is really an indication of the collaboration that helps us to minimize the loss of life and property damage. Those calls have continued. That communication has continued since January 22nd, including direct communication from Governor Newsom to myself today. It's that level of open lines of communication that will certainly make sure that we can respond to this as well as possible, and then certainly for the recovery efforts on the back end. But I'd ask my team if anyone wants to speak specifically to mutual aid efforts.
So embedded within our Emergency Operations Center is the direct representative liaison to both county OES and state OES, along with a number of other state and county representatives. So similar to the mutual aid system that fire utilizes, we have the same ability to reach up to multiple levels to resource any request that comes to the city through the infrastructure that's out there serving the community.
You know, I'm not sure if it was directed towards public safety on the mutual aid side too, but California has the best mutual aid system in the country by far. And we already share resources in what we call the San Diego operational area. So that's everybody on the north side of us, on the east side of us. We share resources on a regular basis. But we also have access to state resources that have now been pre-positioned down here in San Diego County. And so we can call on them for help at any time. So the state of California has pre-positioned a lot of resources out of the California Office of Emergency Services because of anticipation of the impact for everyone. But those resources can travel up and down the state for assistance to anybody who needs it.
When we talk about resources, could you kind of specify what those are?
Yeah, they range from everything from swiftwater rescue teams that come here with their own boats, their own equipment, all of the personal protective equipment that they need. We've got dispatchers, we've got public information officers, you've got brush apparatus that are much better to travel through the areas with four-wheel drive and off-road. And so we've been able to staff up those in addition to really any of the resources that we need that the California Office of Emergency Services can provide that. And so again, they've pre-positioned all throughout the state of California, including down here in San Diego County.
And this might be a question better for OES. This would be from your communication, but have you been in communication with SDG&E in regards to possible power outages?
Yes, we have direct lines of communication with SDG&E. We, for the most part, do the same thing you can do, is go to SDG&E's multiple web pages to determine power outages, response time for the power outages. I'd encourage you to look at their website for weather, because you can get some very San Diego specific weather with the 180 or 190 weather stations they've established. So these are the things we're looking at. But I have a direct line of communication to SDG&E to support whatever needs they have, and they provide situational awareness to us regarding that critical grid that provides electricity throughout our community.
For the chief, for those evacuation orders and those zones, are law enforcement more effective to avoid looters and all that kind of?
So, thank you for the question. The question is about if the evacuation order occurs. So, one, you're going to see law enforcement, police officers going door to door, making certain people are safe. But on the second part of that, you will see law enforcement stay in the area to make certain that we don't have people coming in and breaking into homes or businesses. So it's kind of two-front. We're there. But again, back to the fire chief and what the mayor have said, it's really important. If we give you an evacuation order, we need you to follow it. We need you to be prompt. So please plan ahead, gather your belongings, make certain you know the route that you are going to take. And again, if you don't need to be on the road, please stay off the road. That makes it easier for us to do our job. And then let us in public safety do what we need to do to keep everybody safe.
Will there be additional emergency shelters opened up or that are set aside?
So right now, we're fortunate enough to have at Balboa Gym, hosted by the Red Cross, capacity for approximately another 150 plus. And we're already coordinating to look at additional options if we need to provide additional shelter. But that shelter is already in place. We're looking at additional options if we need to activate another shelter. but we've already surveyed a number of sites in preparation for additional activation of shelters. So we're prepared to handle an additional 150, 160. The nice, convenient part is with having the LAC, Local Assistance Center, one of the things that's nice about that is you have approximately 150 individuals in there of every specialty. So they're now already, in one sense, pre-positioned for us to reach out and potentially get injects or support. I have a representative from Homeless Strategies within the EOC to help make sure that that population is having the support that they need during this emergency.
And then another question, I know that we are discussing a lot of prevention. We have had conversations with people whose homes were flooded and we were inside, and how can they handle that situation or navigate that situation? Many of them express concern about the electricity still being on and then things being underwater. So what should they do if they find themselves in a situation like that?
I'm asked maybe one of my team to handle that, but to go back to the previous question about shelter, I want to make the point that the municipal gym is not currently full, so we still have capacity there. As Chief Heiser mentioned, we have other alternative contingency plans should more shelter be needed, but I also need to draw your attention. Shelter is a short-term strategy. Many of the folks that you just referenced are going to be in an unstable housing situation for some time. That's why the city and the county are standing up mid and longer-term housing solutions. So you've seen us take one of the hotels that we've intended for a homeless shelter and convert it into a shelter for folks who have appeared at our local assistance center. We have hotel vouchers that we have, or hotel rooms that we have set aside through our housing commission. Those are being filled by folks who are in unstable housing situations. So your question was about shelter, but that question is missing a significant portion of our city's response effort. You have the shelter at Municipal Gym, again, not full. We have the hotel in the Midway community that we've repurposed, at least temporarily, for flood victims, and then the additional housing assistance through our housing commission. And that doesn't even talk about what our community-based organizations funded through philanthropy in the county of San Diego is also providing. So there is a growing amount of housing, and that makes me very happy. Housing is the main concern I have. I was out there today going door to door, talking to residents. All of them are very concerned about where they will sleep any given night. A week ago, we didn't have enough answers for that. Today, we have more answers, and we really want to encourage people who are in those situations to avail themselves to step forward. There's no shame in asking for help. A lot of people are in a tough spot, and we want them to come forward. We will find ways to make sure that they get in a suitable, healthy, safe environment while they figure out their next steps for rebuilding. You had a question about what to do with regard to electricity and safety. Does anyone want to try and field that?
So I would encourage anyone to reach out to the Local Assistance Center. It really is the best resource to walk in, and they're there to address every potential need and give guidance on how to solve that. In addition, we've been reaching out to the community. CERT volunteers, other volunteers have been going door to door to provide information of where they may be able to find additional services, which is critical. We were preparing tomorrow to deploy additional teams to go door to door and provide information and assistance in trying to connect them with what they need. This is a challenging event, and we recognize that, and we recognize that we need to reach out door to door and attempt to provide information, and those plans are still moving forward. They're delayed one day. We're not going to deploy individuals responding door to door because of the weather. And I think everybody understands. It's the reason that we closed the LAC for one day, but it will remain open once weather permits, at least for the 7 days that we committed to.
Another question on the building that was repurposed for housing for the flood victims. Do we know the length of time that they will be able to stay there?
Does anyone? Let us get back to you. The question was, how long can the repurposed hotel for shelter stay in that capacity? It's measured in weeks, I mean, at a minimum. It may be longer than that. We procured that building with the support of the state and the county. And so we have other partners involved. Everyone's in agreement that this is a better use right now as we're making this transition from hotel to shelter. Whoever ends up there, and if they have a longer term need, the intention is to transition to a mid to long-term housing solution. Basically, the posture is the city is responding to immediate needs now with the support of community-based organizations. The county will be taking a longer-term approach, and all of us are in regular communication to make sure that folks who are there now will be there and have assistance for as long as they need it. Until the county is prepared to stand up their housing assistance program. Anyone else? If I can just surmise, or just summarize again, we are issuing an evacuation warning for flood-prone and low-lying areas in the city of San Diego. Residents in those areas will be notified by text message in about an hour's time. We ask people to take this seriously and ask all San Diegans to make preparations now for what we are told by the National Weather Service will be a significant rain event that will begin tonight, really much heavier through Monday through into Tuesday. There's more information on the city's webpage, sandiego.gov/storm. And I want to, again, express my appreciation to Governor Newsom, who has been in contact with me multiple times today. That is an extraordinary amount of attention from our state's leader. He has made it very clear whatever San Diego needs, we will get. I appreciate the governor's attention to San Diego. It'll give us certainly a lot of hope that whatever Mother Nature throws at us in the next 24 and 48 hours, that we'll be able to respond to it and get back to what we need to do, which is to help the people who were harmed in the January 22nd flooding. Again, thank you to the media for being here on your Sunday night and helping us get this message out. Talked to a lot of residents today that are counting on all of you to get this information to them. I deeply appreciate you being here to help share this message about safety with the people of our great city. Thank you all for being here.